Iran has cheated on every agreement they've signed. So I ask, Mr. Secretary, has Iran earned the right to be trusted?
Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle question the nuclear deal with Iran. Hear what's ahead as the Obama administration pushes for congressional approval. Plus, video number 3 will show you the latest undercover footage Planned Parenthood selling baby body parts.
I was homeless with my kids. I mean, living in a gym. I lived in gyms for like quite a few years. You know, living in gyms. Yep, lived in gyms, hotel to hotel.
Amazing turnaround, how God's presence healed this man's heart and pushed him from pain to a new life of victory. Thanks so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Lawmakers are weighing in on the Iranian nuclear deal. Tuesday, Secretary of State John Kerry faced tough questions on Capitol Hill over the historic accord. Many on both sides of the debate have serious doubts the plan is a good one. Here's Charlene Aaron.
Secretary of State John Kerry faced tough questions from members of both parties in the House hearing.
Let me underscore, the alternative to the deal that we have reached is not some kind of unicorn fantasy that contemplates Iran's complete capitulation.
In a tense exchange at times, Kerry, Energy Secretary Ernest Moniz, and Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew defended the deal between Iran and 6 nations, aimed at preventing Iran from building a nuclear weapon. Kerry was hoping to coax skeptical lawmakers into supporting the nuclear pact. He warned that walking away would send the wrong message internationally.
If we walk away alone. Our partners are not going to be with us.
But lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have expressed concerns about the details of the agreement, with many questioning if Iran will actually live up to the deal.
Iran has cheated on every agreement they've signed. So I ask, Mr. Secretary, has Iran earned the right to be trusted?
With Republicans basically united in their opposition to the plan, the president is looking to Democrats for support, but many are skeptical, especially since Israel is 100% opposed to it. House Foreign Affairs ranking Democratic member Eliot Engel of New York said he was very disappointed with the agreement.
I have a fundamental concern that 15 years from now, Iran will essentially be off the hook.
But the White House is working hard to get Democrats to approve the deal, with the president personally meeting with and calling Democratic lawmakers to ask for their support. Congress is set to vote on the bill in mid-September, and with much of the public skeptical of the deal, the pressure is expected to intensify on both sides. President Obama has threatened to veto any move to reject the plan. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
More allegations about Planned Parenthood's involvement in trafficking of body parts of aborted fetuses, this time from a former clinic worker. We want to warn you, the video you're about to see is graphic. The video is called Human Capital, and it was released by the Center for Medical Progress. It features a woman who previously worked for a company called Stem Cell. The business obtains fetal tissue and organs for Planned Parenthood. In the video, Holly O'Donnell, a phlebotomist, says she thought she was going to be just drawing blood, not dissecting the body parts of aborted babies.
Stem Express is a company that hires procurement techs to draw blood and dissect dead fetuses and sell the parts to researchers. They partner with Planned Parenthood and they get part of the money because we pay them to use their facilities and they get paid from it. They do get some kind of benefit. We were asked to procure certain tissues like brain, liver, thymus, pancreas, heart, lungs, and pretty much anything on the fetus. It's basically huge trafficking of fetal tissues.
Planned Parenthood adamantly denies the organization profits from the sale of the tissue from aborted fetuses. 2 previous videos have triggered congressional investigations and calls to end taxpayer funding for Planned Parenthood. Thousands of women gathered in rallies across the nation Tuesday to demand an end to federal funding for Planned Parenthood.
People across this country who want to know exactly what is going on and if anything illegal is going on.
Horrified at the things that I heard about fellow OBGYNs talking so callously about ripping babies apart, but doing it in a way to preserve organs that could potentially bring money in.
The hashtag Women Betrayed rallies were held in dozens of cities, the latest sign of growing outrage over Planned Parenthood's harvesting of baby organs for profit. Presidential hopefuls spoke out at one of those rallies in Washington.
There comes a time in the history of nations when we will all be judged on whether or not we took a stand for life. Now is that time. This callous disregard expressed over wine and cheese should inflame and infuriate us all, and we should stop once and for all any penny of money going to Planned Parenthood.
Today is a time for action. Today, the U.S. Department of Justice should open a criminal investigation into all of those individuals. Today, the U.S. Department of Justice should open a criminal investigation into whether Planned Parenthood nationally is a criminal enterprise breaking the law.
And the Senate will now vote on defunding Planned Parenthood before senators head home for their August recess. I want to turn now to China, where believers are fighting back after officials in the Zhejiang province tore down more than 1,500 crosses from church buildings. You can hear Christians praying and weeping as they watch their cross being removed. Now, some believers are practicing civil disobedience by strapping themselves to crosses to protect them from being taken away. Others are building hundreds of wooden crosses, painting them red and putting them on top of homes and along the roadways. This takes place as China carries out a nationwide crackdown on human rights attorneys and advocates. More than 200 have been arrested since July 9th. Here in America, Representative Chris Smith says the Obama administration should make these issues a priority when China's president visits the country in September.
The issue of religious freedom must be addressed by the administration during a planned summit in September. But we must ask whether this summit should even take place. There are many issues in the U.S.-China relationship that need attention, but does President Xi Jinping's, given his bold disregard for human rights and his brutal suppression of dissent, does he deserve to get the red carpet treatment in Washington?
And you can learn more about this ongoing story at the CBN from our CBN international reporter Gary Lane at his blog, The Global Lane. That's at cbnnews.com. Jonathan Pollard, the American citizen serving a life sentence for passing hundreds of classified documents to Israel, will be released in November. Pollard's case has been a source of tension in U.S.-Israeli relations. Israel has long pressed for his release, and some U.S. administrations have tried to use him as a bargaining chip in peace talks with the Palestinians. Pollard's supporters say he only tried to help a U.S. ally, while critics charge he risked U.S. foreign policy for money. The Obama administration says his release has nothing to do with the nuclear agreement with Iran. If you dig in Jerusalem, you never know what you might find. One family recently discovered an important treasure from the time of Jesus in what's believed to be the hometown of John the Baptist. As Julie Stahl reports, they found it under their floor.
After Tal and Oria bought an old home in Jerusalem, they wanted to renovate. That project led to a big surprise.
One day during the work with heavy machines, the machine just slipped down. It disappeared. So we figured that there is something, there is a hole. So we stopped working with the machines and we started digging with our hands. And we found out that there is something. We didn't really know exactly what it was.
Here, under their living room floor, they found a 2,000-year-old mikveh, a Jewish ritual bath.
We were a little afraid or concerned about the whole process with the antiquity authorities. We didn't know what's going to happen with our house, if we will be able to keep our private, normal life.
So the family kept their discovery a secret for almost 3 years.
But it kept talking to us, and we kept feeling that there is something important here that doesn't belong only to us.
That led them to contact authorities. By law, any antiquities found while building must be reported, and in a country with thousands of years of history, that can happen anywhere.
I saw a huge ritual bath, complete, dating to the Second Temple time.
While we agreed not to show the home from the outside, we can tell you that it's located in Ankara, which has its own place in history.
From the beginning of the 6th century AD, Christianity identified the neighborhood of Ein Karem with the birthplace of John the Baptist, where Elizabeth, the mother of John, met Miriam, the mother of Jesus.
According to archaeologist Amit Raem, they found pottery and stone vessels inside the mikveh.
So must be somebody maybe very important, some kind of priest, live here in this neighborhood, had a ritual bath.
Oria said she wonders about the people who lived in this place.
I'm trying to listen to the story that they left behind. It's something very strong to live with.
But for now, they'll put their lives back in order.
I guess we'll close the doors, we'll put the carpet, we'll put the chairs, and we'll try to go back to our lives with knowing that something very important belongs to the story of this place and to the story of our life.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, and Kerry, Jerusalem.
Next on NewsWatch, what do two Regent University students, a 95-year-old American woman, and orphans in India have in common? See how their lives were tied together with a common thread of love. Two years ago, Connie Vitolo was depressed. The 95-year-old felt she had no purpose in life until she started giving her gifts to others and touching many lives in the process. We're sad to report that Connie has died. So to honor her memory, here it once again is her inspiring story.
These orphans in India don't know it yet, but they're getting something special for Christmas this year. Coming from someone they've never met, half a world away in Virginia. 95-year-old Connie Vitolo has spent the past year making blankets for the children, one stitch at a time.
Well, how many blankets have you crocheted for the orphans so far?
A dozen, 12, and I'm on my 13th
on number 13 right now. And I understand that you pray over every blanket.
Oh, I pray for every one of them. I pray to Jesus and I thank him every day. When I finish one, I said, thank you, Jesus. Don't let me die before I finish my blanket.
Not long ago, Mrs. Vitolo didn't care whether she lived or died. After a bad fall, she had to leave her New Jersey home and move in with her daughter in Virginia. Before long, depression set in.
And I say, I wish Jesus would call me home. But my daughter says, no, he don't want you yet.
I prayed. I said, Lord, you know, I'm putting it all in your hands and I'm trusting you that you're going to make a way for her to have, you know, to find her purpose here, you know. And he did.
Anne saw an ad on a bulletin board that volunteers were needed to make items for orphans in India. Mrs. Vitolo found her purpose.
She really has a lot of joy just doing this. She can do it all day long and she just doesn't get tired.
What that lady is doing, it's amazing because something that is giving her life, which is also breathing in life and nurture to a child in another country.
Ranjit Abraham knows what it's like to be without a purpose. He grew up in the shadow of his father, a well-known pastor in India who founded 17 orphanages.
I never wanted to be a part of this because I don't know how it is in this country, but in my country, when you become a pastor and you come to the bottom of the food chain.
Ranjit was pursuing a graduate degree at Regent University when an unlikely partnership emerged.
Out of all my classmates, there's one in particular that I don't necessarily get along with, being an African-American woman from New York City, having a very strong personality, and he being an Indian male from a very chauvinistic country. So we didn't get along. But God had a bigger plan.
Ranjit and Aisha are now best friends, part of a movement called glocalization, encouraging people to serve at a local level for global impact. After finishing graduate school, Ranjit returned to India. He and Aisha work across the globe to provide his father's orphanages with more than basic needs, like playrooms for children who never had toys, or homemade blankets to cover them with warmth and love. They see Mrs. Vitolo as a perfect example of a glocal servant.
To have a little Italian grandmother in the middle of America to say, I'll take my frail hands and I will create something for you that's a practical need.
Versus like, man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at your heart. What does that mean to us? But when you see what Mrs. Vitolo is doing, it makes complete sense, you know?
Oh, here he is.
Once a year, Ranjit returns to the United States. This time, he made a new friend.
Hello! Raji.
Yes!
How are you? I'm Connie. I'm the one who makes blankets for your little orphans.
Oh my God, so good to see you.
Yeah, you are good looking, buddy.
Am I?
Do you want me to show you some pictures of the kids that are gonna get this?
Yeah, I would love to see them.
Can you see that? That's them.
Ah.
They've come from the streets, you know? They don't have a parent,
Right.
they don't have a mother, they don't have a father.
That's what I want. People that don't have anybody. And if this one of these can cover them when they're cold, I'll be happy. I wish I had one here. I would hug them and kiss her. Jesus has a purpose for us all, but I never thought he had a purpose like this for me. And I'm very happy and honored and humble. Jesus, I love you. I thank you and I praise you all my days until the day I come home to you.
Up next, faith and fitness. See how God was able to change this man's life and make him a champion. It takes hard work to be a champion, and that work doesn't only happen in practice and at game time. Deshaun Wright overcame a mountain of personal pain to become a champion athlete and a champion at life.
I believe pain can do two things to you. It can mold you or it can fold you. So I allow it to mold me.
Deshaun Wright trains hard. At 5'9", 270 pounds, the national bodybuilding champion doesn't mind heavy lifting. That's what it's taken for him to see success in competition and in business. The award-winning athlete also owns an award-winning gym called Body by D.
The American dream is not dead. I'll tell anybody, the American dream is far from dead. But still, you go out, what you put in is what you get back. Life treats you the way you treat it.
The Life Treats You the Way You Treat It mantra is also the title of Deshaun's book. The bodybuilder, businessman, and single father of two made time to become an author in hopes of motivating others to find and pursue their purpose.
People will plan their vacation better than they're planning their own life. Itinerary to a T, what the kids are going to do, who's going to watch the pets. I mean, everything is playing out. How much time they're going to take away from work, everything is playing to a T. But your life, if you ask somebody what you want to do, they're like, well, you know, whatever happens, happens.
Owning and operating this award-winning gym is a big accomplishment for Deshaun, but it hasn't been easy. For at least a year, this was the only home he, his son, and daughter knew. And that was their second bout with homelessness.
I was homeless with my kids. I mean, living in a gym. I lived in gyms for like quite a few years. You know, living in gyms. Yep, lived in gyms, hotel to hotel. The first time, it was just actually, it was a bad relationship that I was in. It was a bad relationship. It was really bad with Valid. You know, she actually hit me. And it was like, yeah, she actually hit me. I was a lot smaller back then. When she, that's how brazen she was. She hit me.
The second time, Deshaun simply couldn't afford to pay for a home and a gym. Those were tough years. Still, he says he could always feel God's presence.
I never doubted that he was there. You know, I feel like you have to go through things. You know, that's when your faith is really tested. So I never was like blame, because I was like, that he was always there, it was just me. I just had to do what I had to do. So it wasn't him, it was just I wasn't doing what I needed to do for me. For him to bless me. You know, what he's gonna bless? I wouldn't put that work in. So what is he really gonna bless? Faith without works is dead. That's what the Bible says. So I mean, what I was giving him nothing to bless.
He was also hiding pain from his childhood. At 7 years old, Deshaun's babysitter sexually abused him.
Every time I got dropped off, basically, you know, I mean, you're just feeling this, like what's about to happen now. I mean, the first time is still very, very vivid. Things that shouldn't happen to a 7-year-old happen to a 7-year-old, definitely.
He's found healing and forgiveness after keeping that secret from his parents for nearly 30 years, even as he grew up training to be like his loving hero, his father.
We didn't come from a lot of money, but my dad made do.
Larry Bernard Wright was a bodybuilder and a football player. He died 2 years ago at age 59.
My dad was the epitome of health. He was about 220 pounds, strong, all-state football, defensive end in Alabama. So I come from an athletic background. So to see someone like him get lung cancer was like tragic.
Dad never smoked. Still, he dwindled from 220 pounds to 140 after his lung cancer diagnosis.
He went to the hospital for pneumonia one weekend. Next thing you know, they said it's not coming out.
More than 2 years later, that loss is Deshaun's motivation to be a better athlete, a better businessman, and most of all, a better father to his son and to his daughter.
My daughters write stories about me in school, talk about my daddy is the epitome of perseverance. My son, my daddy owns a gym. Going around telling all his friends, he owns a gym, look at his muscles and things like that. It's just very proud moments for your kids to see your vision, come true and see your dreams. It's nothing like it.
And Deshaun is adding to his honors. He was recently named Citizen Hero of the Year in his home county of York County, and his gym took home the prize yet again for being best gym another year. Stay with us. We're coming right back. And finally this hour, a word for your Wednesday, and today's word is unlikely. Kind of goes along with a few of the stories you've seen here today. When you think of the position God has placed you in, do you feel unworthy, unqualified, or even overwhelmed? Well, consider this. The unlikely is often God's anointed, and what you're anointed and called to do is the question you must ask yourself. Whatever it is, you probably feel like you're unlikely and the unqualified candidate, but God qualifies those he calls, and he's preparing you to take your position. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Make this a wonderful Wednesday.